Okay, great. A little bit of a side swipe here. I'm sorry. I'm talking about something called Kamiwaza and art, and I've hijacked the meeting and toughies. Okay, a bit of bad news to start off with, and I think I'm must be preaching to the converted by now. But your status quo is history. Whatever worked for you in the past, whatever worked for your company, whatever worked, in your hustle, it's gone. We're not going to be facing a world as we knew it, and I think we all know this deeply, but we don't know what the implications are yet, and we can't predict solid stuff, but we can start working on our thinking and our philosophy around how that stuff works. And I think that we find our purpose in that. And I'll come full circle back to why this is and what we can do about it. So let's jump in, and I hope you guys are following and enjoying. So let's go. So back in 1917, this guy Marcel Duchamp installs that is a urinal. Many of you are aware with the Dadaist movement. That was what we got out of him. He put a urinal into a art museum, and he changed the world. And essentially, modern art really can show a lot of its roots to this little piece of sorry, that was Freudian. This little piece of anarchism, and it really was a pivotal moment. And for those of you who are wondering why I've got art here, there's a great book, Steal Like an Artist, and I'll go through what that means a little bit more through the course of the slide. Anyway, the first guy, Marcel Duchamp, he installed a urinal, and he was clearly an artist, maybe not respected at the time for doing that. The second guy, of course, was a plumber. And there is no getting around that. There was no way to install another urinal and be an artist. And that's not what stealing like an artist means. But I'm going to tell you that this is really a lesson in irony. And I'll give you a moment to read that. Ironically, I learned this joke from my mother-in-law, so we'll move on from that one. But the real irony is that photograph I showed you of Marcel Duchamp's urinal is in fact a replica, because the original was lost. So life follows art. You can't make the stuff up. Such is life. So you guys have built something. You've built a brand, personal brand. You've built a reputation. You've built a product. You've built a business. And quite honestly, from the perspective of their living rooms, nobody gives a damn about what you've done, where you were. I always tell my baristas, you're only as good as your last cup of coffee. Well, your last cup of coffee is now irrelevant. We're entering a new world, new rules. We don't know what they are, what they're going to look like. You want mass appeal. Everyone wants mass appeal. And, that's just not going to be possible. And I think this idea of mass appeal is where we all get lost, and that's not where we're going to find things. Chasing mass appeal is hopeless. Worse than that, of course, is chasing profits. If you are a company, a hustler, a gig economist, or even an employee, going for that money goal is just not going to work. It didn't work before. It's certainly not going to work now. In fact, the more you single-mindedly chase profits, the further away you're going to get from it. We need to chase something else. And profits are always a side effect of doing that well. And this is really the gist of where I'm coming from. Just watch out for that trap. And I'm fortunate when I built the brand, that wasn't the perspective I took. And we built it very clearly on philosophy. And, most of us fall into the trap of seeking for the average, not standing out, not being too disruptive, just wanting to fit in, be a good person, go with the tide, play by the rules. And that is a huge pitfall going forward. We need to look at whose buttons you can truly actually push. We need to create real love, real connection with the people that really connect with us and stop trying to chase down the people that we can't connect with. And the sameness, the averageness is just absolutely not going to work. You know, having that idea of what's in it for me is, again, hopeless. It's what can you give? What can you provide? How can you connect? Where can you create value, true value, and really get deep into being part of the solution and not part of the problem? And I think this is where the result that we have to achieve. And we need to go a little bit more through the method now. But bear in mind, if, again, like chasing the profits, if you're going to go in about what's in it for you, you don't have a chance. You've got to create that purpose. You've got to create, and I'll get into the concept a little bit more. Safety is just, again, another huge pitfall. Try and play it safe. Life's going to be hopeless. The averageness, the moreness, the sameness, the safeness is just going to leave you lost. When I set out to create truth, it really was a target to be acknowledged as a world-class artisan roaster. The coffee shop was designed to be the best coffee shop in the world. And, you know, there are two approaches. And I spoke about this pre the recession. I gave a talk on the collapse of the middle market. And I could see the recession coming forward. The signs were pretty obvious. And I looked into what was going on in the Great Depression. And we all have this idea in the Great Depression that everyone's fortunes were lost, that everything was awful. Things were crap. Yeah, they were crap for a lot of people. But let me tell you a couple of things about that time. Number one, unemployment in South Africa today is higher than it ever was in the Great Depression in the United States. There's a little fact to think about. But a lot of people made a fortune, a lot. Yes, a lot of people suffered terribly, and I'm not belittling that or trying to sideline that at all. But there were two routes to doing really, really well. And the research that I did showed that you were either doing incredibly well by being the best at something, or doing incredibly well by being the cheapest at something. Now, I can't speak to being the cheapest. It's not my field of expertise. It requires deep pockets and resilience, and somebody else is always chomping at your heels to also be the cheapest. But I can tell you being the best in the world is super simple. There is a little trick to it. You get to pick your world. And as long as you do that, it's super easy to be the best in the world and find your niche and play to that. There are three routes to a company being the best in the world. And this applies to a personal hustle as well. It applies to a gig economist. It applies to you as an employee in a company. It applies to you as a leader. It doesn't matter where you fit in. You still have these three ways. I'm also going to finally introduce you to Kamiwaza, which I have stolen shamelessly from Seth Godin. It's his concept. It's a Japanese term, and it's about divine work. And what that really means, it's that feeling, you know, when you were 10 years old and you were running that 100-meter race, well, I usually found myself either second or third last. It didn't really matter what I did. But I can tell you one thing, I ran with absolute joy. I gave it my heart. I put everything into it. And that is Kamiwaza. And it doesn't matter where you finish, it's that intention that you put into it, that wholeheartedness. Today, I'm a mountain biker, whether due to age or lack of ability. I yearn to be back in the mid-pack. I'm falling behind the mid-pack at this point in time, but I can tell you when I do a race, I'm in it at 100%. I'm not going to do that bullshit 110%. 110% is when my wife is telling me not to bleed on the carpets. It's 100% where I'm having that thrill, where I'm absolutely committed and I'm doing things in a godlike way. And when we can apply that to our careers, our work, our inspiration, our giving, our generosity, we change the world, and we change the world for us, and we change ourselves. And in there is purpose. Going back into the three different methodologies. So you've got an ops-driven company. Let's look towards Amazon for their core product. You know, let's not talk about web services because I don't know enough about it, but certainly on their product side. Try and get customization. Try and get a different delivery method from them. Try and get a different product from them. You get what you get in the system that they deal with, in the channels that they have, and there's no compromise. And the reason that they're so ruthlessly efficient is they set the rules and they will not break it for anyone, for anything, anytime, anywhere. and it gives them absolute ruthless efficiency, and they have a reputation for that, and it works. We talk about relational, things are a little different, and this is where everything is being modified all the time around you. And this is where you create an absolute love brand. You will compromise your product, you'll compromise your rules. It's all about connecting with the customer. And, you know, this is a whole different thing. Forget about your product being the champion. Forget about your operations being the champion. This is hyper customization. There are a lot of specialists, there are a lot of companies that work on this model, and it really can work, but it's all about connecting with customers and super modifying all the time. Product, you know, is where my heart is, and it's a different route, and it's where the product is leader, and you're just championing the product all the time, and you're making the product better and better and better. And sometimes when the product is really good, you appear to do good ops, or you appear to do good relationship, but it's because that product is champion. And, you know, I look at companies. I think Apple was a product company. Today, I think it's pivoting into an operations company where there's operational excellence. I can't speak to that, but what I can tell you is many people think that you can do all three, or you can do a compromise of all three. And the news for you is you can't. You absolutely cannot. The resources it takes to be excellent at one means you need hygiene levels in the other two. If you try to pursue two of them, or worse, three of them, you're going to deeply compromise all of them. No company, no matter how big, has the resources to tackle all three. But if you tackle one wholeheartedly and you just go hygiene level on the other two, they will be more than good enough, and the category that you focus on will cover up the inadequacies in the other and make them irrelevant. And it's vital that you see that you do have these three routes in front of you. Which one you take is going to be where your heart is, but you have to embrace one of these three strategies entirely. Going to another book, McDougall, who wrote Born to Run, wrote an even more incredible book, in my opinion, called Natural Born Heroes. And in that, he talks about what our purpose is. And this is where I'm bringing things full circle back to what I was actually asked to talk to everyone about. And really what he talks about is being useful. That our purpose as human beings is to be useful to others. And if one can embrace this quality with absolute sincerity and believe in it, and make sure that we're capable of being useful, and our philosophy embraces that usefulness and utility to others, we create purpose. And if you can have Kamiwaza and purpose together, I think we get to something else. And the philosophy of truth for the last 4 or 5 years has been this: the joy of the extraordinary. And, you know, we're a product-driven company, and it's about doing extraordinary things, but doing that without providing joy, and doing that without the honesty of truth is absolutely nothing. But if you can find your purpose, if you can do it by doing extraordinary things, and you can bring joy to the universe, I think success is inevitable, no matter what the environment is going to be like. And you're going to be irreplaceable, and you're going to be wanted. And maybe not in the organization you're in, maybe not in the ecosystem you're in, but absolutely to the planet and to yourself. And in that, we can find ourselves and find our true purpose. And all I can ask all of you is embrace Kamiwaza, find your purpose, and embrace it wholeheartedly, but do it from a spirit of generosity. I think that's the end of my formal conversation, and I think let's break for questions if you guys are ready for it.